The Zilthar Dominion had ruled the stars for thousands of years, expanding its empire across countless systems. But there was one place they never dared to touch: Vorath 7. It was a world of endless storms, jagged mountains, and dense, suffocating jungles teeming with horrors beyond imagination. At the top of this deadly ecosystem stood the HFY, a monstrous predator with armored scales, razor-sharp claws, and a hunger so insatiable that even the strongest Zilthar warbeasts had fallen to its wrath. No species in the galaxy had ever survived a direct confrontation with these creatures. The Zilthar themselves had attempted to conquer the planet centuries ago, sending their most advanced warriors to subdue it. None returned. Even their warships, with their devastating weapons, had barely escaped the carnage that followed. Since then, Vorath 7 was marked as a forbidden world, a place no rational being would ever set foot on again. But then, the humans arrived. The Zilthar High Command received the first reports with confusion, then disbelief, and finally, outright terror. A Terran fleet had entered Vorath 7's orbit. At first, the Zilthar assumed it was a mistake, perhaps an accident, or maybe the humans were simply ignorant of the horrors that awaited them below. But as the minutes passed and the Terran vessels deployed their landing teams, it became clear that this was no accident. The humans had come deliberately. The Zilthar observed through long-range surveillance as the first Terran soldiers set foot on the cursed soil. Their armored figures moved with precision, their weapons humming with deadly potential, yet there was no sign of hesitation. Instead, they set up camps, equipment, and defensive perimeters, as if they were here not just to survive, but to stay. Within hours, the jungle began to stir. The humans, whether they knew it or not, had already drawn the attention of the HFY. The Zilthar had seen this before, the moment when lesser species met their doom. A single HFY could rip through the strongest battle formations like a blade through silk, and here the humans were completely exposed. The Zilthar waited for the inevitable bloodshed, but what happened next defied all logic. As the first HFY lunged from the shadows, its massive fanged maw opening wide to swallow its prey, the humans did not flee. They did not scream or panic like every other species had before them. Instead, they fought back. The thunderous crack of human railguns echoed through the jungle, their rounds tearing through the HFY's thick hide with terrifying accuracy. Explosions ripped through the trees as humans used fire and precision strikes to bring the monster down. Within minutes, something unthinkable happened. The HFY, a beast that had never known defeat, fell. Silence followed, a stunned, unnatural stillness. The Zilthar couldn't comprehend it. No one had ever killed HFY and lived. But the humans did not stop there. They approached the massive corpse, examined it carefully, and then they began carving it up. Zilthar commanders watched in growing horror as the humans skinned the beast, harvested its flesh, and set up cooking stations. They were not just studying their kill, they were preparing it. Open flames flickered in the dark as the Terrans, completely unbothered by the monstrosity they had just slain, began grilling the HFY's flesh as if it were nothing more than a prize hunt. The Zilthar officers who watched the feed felt their stomachs churn. No race in the galaxy had ever considered eating such a creature. Its flesh was rumored to be laced with deadly toxins, its blood corrosive, its very presence a symbol of terror. And yet, here were the humans, laughing, eating, and enjoying their meal. A single message was transmitted from the Terran camp, a brief and terrifying declaration that sent waves of fear rippling through the Zilthar Dominion. Landing successful. The hunt begins. The Zilthar High Council convened in an emergency session, their voices shaking with uncertainty. What had they just witnessed? These humans were no ordinary species. They did not just conquer death, they embraced it. No rational being would come to Vorath 7 willingly, let alone hunt its most terrifying predator for food. This was not the act of mere survival. This was something else. Something worse. If humans could do this, then what else were they capable of? As the flames of the Terran campfires flickered across the jungle and the scent of roasted HFY filled the air, one chilling realization spread across the Zilthar Dominion like wildfire. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and it was too late to stop them. The Zilthar High Council had been watching the events on Vorath 7 with growing terror. What they had expected was a massacre, the humans landing on the cursed planet, walking blindly into the domain of the Exor-Vagath, and vanishing like every other foolish species that had dared to set foot there. But instead of being slaughtered, the humans had killed Exor-Vagath, and worse, they had eaten it. That alone had been enough to shake the foundations of the Zilthar Dominion, but the nightmare was far from over. The humans were not finished. One kill was not enough. They were here for more. And now, the Zilthar were witnessing something that defied all reason, a coordinated hunt. The humans did not stumble through the jungle like prey waiting to be devoured. They moved like predators. They were precise, methodical, and terrifyingly organized. In the deep, shadowy wilds of Vorath 7, where no sentient life had ever dared to challenge the Exor-Vagath, the humans were not just fighting to survive. They were hunting. High above the planet, Zilthar warlords, scientists, and tacticians gathered around surveillance screens, their reptilian eyes fixed on the horrifying display. Human squads spread out, moving silently through the thick undergrowth, their armor adapted to blend with the environment. Advanced sensors scanned the surroundings, detecting even the faintest movement. They communicated through short, efficient signals, no wasted words, no hesitation. Their weapons were powerful, but it was their strategy that sent a chill through the watching Zilthar. Unlike other species, who had always fought the Exor-Vagath in panic and desperation, the humans were studying their prey. One group set traps massive metal spikes covered in neurotoxic venom extracted from the very creatures they hunted. Another team laid out bait, raw Exor-Vagath meat from their first kill, releasing a scent that would draw more of the beasts straight into their kill zones. Hidden snipers took positions in the trees, their weapons loaded with armor-piercing rounds designed to punch through even the thickest scales. The jungle, once a place where only the Exor-Vagath reigned supreme, was slowly being turned against them. The first encounter came swiftly. A massive Exor-Vagath, drawn by the scent of blood, emerged from the shadows, its 6 glowing eyes scanning the terrain. Its thick, black scales reflected the flickering light of distant fires, and its razor-sharp claws dug deep into the ground. It was a beast of nightmares, a killing machine that had never known fear. The Zilthar expected it to tear through the human forces like a storm. It never got the chance. A silent order was given, and the hunt began. A single human, moving with terrifying confidence, stepped into the open, drawing the monster's attention. The Exor-Vagath roared, lunging forward at lightning speed. But just as it leapt, the ground beneath it exploded. A hidden mine, planted precisely where the humans had predicted it would attack, detonated with a force that sent the beast crashing to the ground. Before it could recover, the snipers struck round after round slammed into its skull and joints, crippling its movements. The jungle shook with its dying screeches, but the humans showed no mercy. They closed in, finishing the beast with a single, well-placed shot to the head. The Zilthar watching from orbit were horrified. The humans weren't just fighting the Exor-Vagath, they were winning. And not through sheer firepower, but through intelligence, patience, and strategy. The impossible was happening before their very eyes. The hunters had become the hunted. But the worst was yet to come. The humans, instead of retreating after their kill, set up camp near the corpse. They worked quickly, carving the beast apart with precision, extracting meat, bones, and organs. Some pieces were packed away for study, while others were placed over roaring fires, their rich scent rising into the air. The humans were not merely surviving on Vorath 7. They were thriving. Then, in a move that sent a collective shudder through the Zilthar observers, the humans broadcasted a message across open channels. Their leader, a man with sharp eyes and a confident smirk, appeared on the screen, standing beside the skinned corpse of Exor-Vagath. His voice was calm, almost amused. Second hunt successful. Meat's a little tougher than expected, but we'll manage. The Zilthar council chamber erupted into chaos. This was no accident. This was no desperate attempt at survival. The humans had come to Vorath 7 knowing exactly what they were doing. They had studied the planet, prepared for its dangers, and now they were treating its most feared creatures as nothing more than a challenge to be conquered. The implications were terrifying. The Zilthar had always believed that their empire ruled the galaxy through sheer dominance, that no force could challenge their might. But these humans, these reckless, fearless monsters, had entered one of the deadliest worlds known to exist, and instead of running in terror, they had made it their hunting ground. If they could do this to the Exorvegath, what could they do to the rest of the galaxy? The warlords of the Dominion, once so certain of their superiority, now feared for the future. For if the humans had no fear of the Exorvegath, then what could possibly make them afraid? The answer, they realized with growing dread, was nothing. The moment the transmission from Vorath 7 spread across the galactic networks, a wave of fear swept through the stars. Every major species, the Zilthar, the Krell, the Vosari, even the cold and calculating Sinvari, watched in horror as the humans laughed, feasted, and hunted the most terrifying apex predator the galaxy had ever known. The impossible was unfolding before their eyes. The Exorvegath, creatures that had terrorized entire civilizations, were being slaughtered like livestock. The humans had not just survived on the Forbidden World. They had claimed it. And worst of all, they had done so casually. The Zilthar Dominion, once so proud and arrogant in their might, was now silent. Their warlords, who had ruled the stars through fear and power, trembled at the sight of the Terran forces tearing through the jungles of Vorath 7 like unstoppable monsters. Reports showed that human scouts had moved deeper into the planet, no longer just hunting the Exorvegath but tracking them, understanding their patterns and setting up permanent bases. It was no longer a battle of survival. It was conquest. The Krell, a species of towering brutes with armored hides, had always believed themselves to be the greatest warriors of the galaxy. To them, strength was absolute. Yet as they watched human soldiers bring down beasts twice the size of their war champions, their confidence shattered. The Krell High Council debated for hours, their voices laced with unease. If the humans could break the Exorvegath, what hope did any organic species have in a war against them? On the capital world of the Vosari Alliance, where scholars and strategists analyzed every species in the galaxy, the panic was even worse. The Vosari were masters of information warfare, their spies embedded in every major empire. Yet not a single one of them had predicted this. Their most advanced predictive models had always suggested that humans were reckless but fragile, too emotional to be a true galactic power. But those calculations were wrong. The creatures they had dismissed as impulsive and chaotic were actually unpredictable, relentless, and fearless. If they could not be controlled, then how could they be stopped? The Sinvari, a species of cold, machine-like beings, watched with an eerie silence. Unlike the others, they did not feel fear in the traditional sense. Instead, they relied on calculations, probabilities, and efficiency. And according to their latest projections, the probability of humanity surpassing every known species in military dominance had risen to 97.8%. The Sinvari did not believe in emotions, but for the first time, a new variable entered their calculations: humanity could not be contained. Galactic leaders scrambled to respond. Emergency councils were formed. Secret meetings were held in hidden chambers, filled with the whispers of terrified rulers. Some called for immediate diplomatic negotiations. Perhaps the humans could be reasoned with, controlled through alliances or trade deals. Others, driven by fear, spoke of war. Perhaps humanity could still be eliminated before it was too late. The thought of such an action was terrifying, for if they failed, there would be no second chance. The humans did not forgive. They did not forget. Across the galaxy, ordinary citizens were gripped by panic. On countless worlds, news broadcasts repeated the same shocking footage: Terran soldiers walking among the corpses of creatures that had once been thought invincible. Crowds gathered in fearful silence, watching as human commanders casually discussed hunting strategies against beings that had once brought entire civilizations to their knees. Conspiracies spread like wildfire. Were humans even organic? Were they some forgotten nightmare from a lost era? Some even whispered that humanity was not conquering Vorath 7 for resources, but for sport. The Zilthar, Once the proudest warriors of the stars now hesitated. Their fleets, once poised to expand their empire further, now remained motionless. Their warlords, who once thirsted for battle, now spoke only in whispers. For if they had ever faced humanity on the battlefield before, they now understood their mistake. They had believed the humans to be another species to dominate, another civilization to bring under their rule. But they had been wrong. Terribly, irreversibly wrong. The first official message from the Terran High Command arrived on all major galactic channels, simple and direct. There were no threats, no warnings, just a chilling declaration. Vorath 7 is no longer a forbidden world. It is now under Terran jurisdiction. Any interference will be met with force. The meaning was clear. The humans had claimed the unclaimable. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy stood still. The once mighty empires, the arrogant warlords, the cold and calculating rulers all watched in fear as humanity did what no other species had dared to dream. And deep in the heart of their empire, far from the chaos and panic, the Terran leaders simply watched, waiting for the galaxy to understand the truth. The age of human dominance had begun. The Galactic Council chamber was silent, yet the tension inside was suffocating. The leaders of the most powerful civilizations sat in uneasy stillness, their eyes fixed on the single screen before them. A transmission was coming through a direct message from the humans. No species had ever dared to speak to the Council with such authority. No civilization had ever forced the galaxy's rulers into a meeting like this. But the humans were not like the others. The screen flickered, and the image of a Terran officer appeared. His expression was calm, his voice measured, but the weight of his words was like a hammer to the chest. "You have two choices," he said. "Accept human dominance or prepare for war." A murmur spread through the chamber, a mixture of outrage and fear. No species had ever been given an ultimatum like this. The Zilthar warlord, his golden armor glinting under the lights, leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "You expect us to surrender?" His voice was sharp, full of restrained fury. "To humans?" The Terran officer didn't flinch. "Surrender?" He let the word hang for a moment, as if considering it. "No. We are offering you survival." The silence that followed was deafening. The Krell ambassador, a massive figure with thick armored plates covering his body, let out a low growl. His people had long been the most feared warriors in the galaxy until the humans arrived. He had seen the footage. He had watched, horrified, as human soldiers hunted the Exor-Vegath creatures that had once terrorized entire civilizations. The impossible had become reality. Humanity had done what no species had ever dared to attempt. They had taken Vorath 7 for themselves, a planet so deadly that even the most powerful empires had deemed it untouchable. And they had done it without losing a single soldier. The Vosari diplomat, a thin and delicate creature with shimmering silver skin, spoke next, her voice carefully controlled. "You must understand that the Council does not respond to threats." The human officer's expression did not change. "Then you misunderstand. This is not a threat. It is a statement of fact." He leaned slightly forward, his eyes scanning the room, as if daring anyone to challenge him. "Humanity is no longer a minor species, fighting for a place in the galaxy. We have claimed our place. You can either recognize it peacefully or watch as we take it by force." A cold realization spread through the room. This was not arrogance. This was certainty. The Sinvari, a cybernetic species known for their ruthless logic, had remained silent until now. Their mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Your actions on Vorath 7 have disrupted the balance of power. The probability of galactic conflict has increased significantly." The human officer gave a small nod. "It was never balanced to begin with. You feared the Exor-Vegath. We did not. That alone proves the difference between humanity and the rest of you." The Krell warlord's hands clenched into fists. "We will not be ruled by humans." The officer's eyes locked onto him, cold and unwavering. "Then you will fall before us." The room erupted into chaos. Some shouted for war, Others pleaded for negotiations. The Zilthar warlord slammed his clawed hand against the table, his voice a furious snarl. "You underestimate us, human. We have crushed civilizations that dared challenge us." The Terran officer finally smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "And yet here you are, sitting in fear, because for the first time in history, you are not the predator." The weight of his words settled over the chamber like a storm cloud. The council had ruled through power, through fear. But now they were afraid. A new transmission interrupted the argument. The screen shifted, revealing live footage from deep space Terran warships arriving at the edges of multiple star systems. Their sleek, predatory designs were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. These were not ships built for defense. They were built for conquest. The Vosari diplomat's voice wavered. "What? What do you want?" The human officer's reply was simple. Acknowledgement. A pause. Accept humanity as an equal power in the galaxy. Recognize our right to expand, to explore, and to claim what is ours. Or resist and face consequences you are not prepared for. The Zilthar warlord's claws dug into the table, his breathing heavy. His mind raced, trying to find a path that did not end in destruction. The Krell warlord stared at the images of Terran warships and, for the first time in his life, felt doubt. The Vosari diplomat looked at her fellow leaders and realized they had no choice. The Council had always believed the galaxy was theirs to control. But the humans had proven them wrong. The balance of power had shifted, and it was too late to stop it. After a long silence, the Sinvari finally spoke. "We recognize the Terran Dominion as a major power." One by one, the others followed. Some did so with grudging acceptance, others with quiet terror. But they all understood the truth. The age of human dominance had begun. The galaxy had never considered humans a real threat. They were newcomers, barely stepping into the vastness of space, while ancient empires had ruled for thousands of years. The Zilthar, the Krell, the Vosari, and the Sinvari all had seen humanity as nothing more than another species destined to remain insignificant. But they were wrong. At first, the Galactic Council dismissed the Terrans as reckless explorers. Their early space travel was primitive, their ships unimpressive. The Zilthar warlords laughed at the idea of humans competing with them. The Krell warriors saw them as weak, their small stature and soft skin unworthy of battle. The Vosari scholars, known for their deep understanding of war and politics, believed the humans would either submit or be destroyed. But humanity had something none of them understood: determination beyond reason. The first sign of change came with the war on the Xaloth front. The Exaloth were biomechanical horrors, devouring entire planets and leaving nothing behind. They had invaded the outer colonies of multiple civilizations, including Earth's frontier worlds. The Zilthar and Vosari had tried to stop them and failed. The Krell had fought them and lost entire fleets. But humanity? Humanity did not retreat. They fought with ruthless efficiency, using weapons that adapted to the Exaloth's biological armor. Terran warships did not flee when their hulls were breached. They fought until they could not fire another shot. Soldiers did not surrender when outnumbered. They made sure the enemy suffered until their last breath. The other species watched in shock as the humans wiped out the Exaloth in battles where every logical prediction had said they should have lost. The galaxy took notice. Then came the Vorath 7 incident. The Forbidden World had long been avoided, filled with creatures so deadly that no species dared to settle there. Even the Krell, the most brutal warriors of the stars, had lost thousands trying to claim it. But when the first Terran expedition arrived, the result was different. Within a year, the once deadly planet was under Terran control. The humans didn't just survive, they thrived. They hunted the very beasts that had slaughtered armies, turning them into nothing more than trophies. The message was clear: there was no place in the galaxy too dangerous for humanity. The empires started to panic. If humans could conquer the unconquerable, what else could they do? The Council called for secret meetings, debating ways to stop Terran expansion before it was too late. Some spoke of war, but others knew the truth: they had already lost the advantage. The final proof came with the Battle of Kelros 9. The Zilthar Dominion, fearing Terran growth, decided to strike first. Their fleets descended upon a human colony, expecting an easy victory. But what they faced was a nightmare. The humans had predicted the attack. They had prepared their defenses, waiting for the perfect moment. When the Zilthar fleet arrived, the trap was already set. The battle was brutal. The Zilthar ships were larger, stronger, built for planetary conquest. But the humans were smarter. Their ships moved like predators, targeting weak points with deadly accuracy. Their ground forces fought like nothing the Zilthar had ever faced. They did not break under pressure. They did not surrender. They fought with a terrifying resolve, as if losing was not even a possibility. In less than a day, the Zilthar forces were in full retreat. Their once mighty fleet reduced to wreckage. Their warriors, who had never feared battle, were now running for their lives. The news of the defeat spread across the stars like wildfire. The Zilthar Dominion, one of the strongest empires in the galaxy, had just lost a war to humanity. The Council was forced to do what they never thought they would: recognize humanity as an equal. The great empires, who had once seen Earth as an irrelevant world, now sat in negotiations with humans as their peers. Some accepted the new reality with hesitation, others with fear. But all of them understood the truth. The rise of humanity was unstoppable. The galaxy had once believed that humans were weak, that they could never stand against the great civilizations of the stars. But they had forgotten one thing: humanity never stops fighting.